That's not the right window. That's absolutely wrong. Hello out there. You right there. I heard recently that it's better for the algorithm somehow if you don't say, hello, everybody, but you address a specific person. So I'm looking through my camera and I see you. And I see that you are dressed inappropriately, but I'm not even going to call it out. I don't want to embarrass you. I'm just happy you're here watching. All right. That's a song lyric or something, right? Hello, everyone, but also you specifically. You. Okay. 3 things from Gary's library. All right. First, and we're going to talk more about this in the rest of this video, but my backlog pile is horrendous. Horrendous. I have so much I should be reading. And that makes me feel guilty alone. If I have a pile of movies I want to watch that I haven't, it makes me feel like shit. If I have some video games that I bought that I haven't played yet or barely played, makes me feel like shit. Comics makes me feel like shit. But the ones that make me feel the worst, the absolute worst, the most like I am failing, books by friends. When I haven't kept up on those, I'm thinking about it all the time. And as Exhibit A, there are a few exhibits in that category, but here's one that I'm trying to remedy currently. I'm working my way through Scott Serklin's magnum opus, The Young and the Dead, the complete collection. I got both. I got the complete collection and issue 6. Yeah, it's 6. Because I have all the other floppies, but I was really excited about the idea of, because, I don't know how long ago it was that I read the first one or the second one. Much like DvsM, The Young and the Dead has been going on for a long time. And I had to admit, like the first couple, a little fuzzy in my memory. I was like, what exactly happened? So I thought this will be great. Getting the complete thing, I'll be able to just start at the beginning and read it all as one big fat story. And I'm really enjoying it. I'm actually really glad I decided to do that because it allowed me to sort of experience it again for the first time. And there's just so much to admire in what he's done here. It's really fun. It's really cool. It's just, I just really find it an enjoyable read, and I don't know how else to say it. So I'm assuming you can get this on his website still. This was part of the Kickstarter. Highly recommended. Support indies that have supported me. Like, if you have not yet checked out The Young and the Dead, check it out. Scott Serkland, Serkland. I did not put it in the description. There is something in the description you should check out, though, but we'll get to that as well. Let's see here. Number 2, let's check what. Yes, it is. Fully agree. And by the way, hello, Jim. The remaining 2 items from the library fall in the category of art inspiration / reference / compost for a future project. Not the one I'm working on now. DvsM, but like a future DvsM story. This is part of my building visual inspiration. The first is an art collected works book. The artist is Leonora Carrington. Leonora Carrington is one of the I don't know if an art historian would have trouble with me calling it this, but one of the founders of surrealism, sort of. If such a thing could have a founder, and also one of the rare women early in that movement. Here is the cover of the book. see if I can find some good representative images. I was looking for a fun book that collected surrealist paintings, and I was looking at a bunch. And I responded, I was not familiar with her until I found this book. And when I stumbled onto it and was looking at examples of her work, I was like, yes, this is the one. This is the one I want to expose myself to. Much like that person right there is exposing him or herself to me right now. I'm trying to find a good example of Carrington's work. Or a good representative example. There's lots of good examples, but hopefully one that not only is interesting, but kind of maybe gives you... Okay, here's one. I did like this one. Very weird. Let's see. Maybe one more. Oh, yes. So here, well, that's the one from the cover. I could just show you the cover again. Now we'll do a third since you kind of already saw that one. Oh, here's a good, and this is definitely... I really loved it. Loved what I saw. Like I said, was totally unfamiliar with her before I found this book, and then I was like, okay, I want to see more of that. Oh, okay, one more, just because I really liked this one too. Let's see, where are we? And you can, like, it's like a brooch over the right eye or something. I don't know. Kind of cool. Okay, so that's number 2 on the 3 things. And then finally, in the same category of visual inspiration / reference / material to look at for a future DvsM endeavor, I have Worlds Beyond Time, Sci-Fi Art of the 1970s. Kind of a cool cover. I've always loved the look of pulp sci-fi covers from like the 60s and 70s. And in a way, I think I've always been a little bummed out that we've never gotten a sci-fi movie with the aesthetic of that era and that medium of sci-fi, where the landscapes always looked, first of all, highly alien. Like, it never looked like, you know, oh, that's the Sonoran Desert, or oh, that's, you know, a jungle. It always looked very strange, almost more like the surrealism. And also, I think when I think of that kind of art, eerily vacant. Like, you would just see these strange landscapes with nothing on them. No cities, no creatures, no trees, no nothing. It was just weird. And like, if there was a structure, it'd be some strange inverted pyramid floating over this weird spacescape. And that was it. Like, just this kind of abandoned, futuristic, surreal sci-fi. And like I said, we don't see that in movies much. Let me see if I can find an example in this that captures kind of what I'm talking about. That's not a bad one, but I want to see if there's an even better one. Let's see. There's a couple good examples. See, now I'm actually... I have too many examples. I know this is great content right now. I'll just randomly show you some. I don't know how well I can zoom in on this one. On the bottom here, yes, there's like this bubble, this domed city in the background. But this sort of represents what I'm talking about, where there's this focus on bold basic colors, the strangeness of the world, and then the sci-fi element of it, you know, in terms of technology and things, is a little secondary. I'm gonna try and come up with one more. Some of the good examples I'm finding are small images that I don't know if my camera will do justice to. Here's a good one. Yeah, okay, sort of like this too. Look at this one right here. I don't know how well you can see that. Whoop. Do you see what I mean? Like a world totally unlike ours. It's an alien world. A little bit of technology, but it's mostly just, it's leaning on the far away. It's leaning on the alien. It's leaning on the sort of unsettling beauty of being nowhere near home. I think that's how I react to it. So those are the three things. Okay, checking the chat here. Including a broad fam, and I am not expecting. I mean, that sounds like something that someone who's exposing themselves would say. I mean, what a weird thing to say. I'm not exposing myself right now. I swear to God, I'm wearing pants right now. Like, why would you say that unless you're not wearing pants? That's, I don't know. Okay. Hellos. Peter Matt. Yeah. Yes, Jim and I share an affection for retro pulp sci-fi covers. And it's something that could still happen someday. I always imagined when I don't know what the trade paperback of DvsM is going to look like when I compile all 6 books into one perfect bound, you know, deluxe edition. If you made me do it today, it would probably, I'd be looking at a lot of that for inspiration. I don't know. I mean, the trade for the complete DvsM, that's 5 years away or so. Like, who knows how I'll be feeling about how to do that then. I might have a totally different idea. But that has been my idea for a little while now. It's like when I finally do a trade, I want it to have a retro sci-fi paperback vibe. Not like the pulp covers I did. Because those were aping like EC Comics. Those were like salacious, like you got a little cheesecake, you get a little violence, you get a little like, I mean, that's not what I was hoping to do something more akin to like first edition Dune cover. Like that kind of, when I say pulp, that kind of pulp. Not the kind of men's magazine pulp that I did for the pulp editions of 75, the Men in Black story, and 97, the Jenny story. Okay, let's see here. Guys who watched the sci-fi portion of Gentleman LeBron. I'm unfamiliar with that. I don't know what that is. But Sam Rockwell makes me think of, this isn't pulp, but it's one of my favorite sci-fi movies of all time. And Jim, if we ever do top 5 sci-fi, this will probably end up somewhere in my list. Moon, starring Sam Rockwell. I just adore. I really, really love it. I think for sure would be in my top 5. I don't think it would be number 1, but it would be top 5. Also, that Star Wars, yes, so of course, yes, yeah. Well, not just OG Star Wars, Flash Gordon and Buck Rogers, and that era of sci-fi that's more about weird, just weird, leaning into the weird, which again, I don't feel like you see in a lot of popular, especially cinematic sci-fi anymore. You did a little, what was that one? It was based on a French graphic novel. It came out in the last few years. I would say like the last 10 years. I'm looking to see if I have the actual one, the graphic novel it was based on, handy. I don't remember the name of it. It was the guy who directed Fifth Element. He did another sci-fi movie in the past 10 years based on a French graphic novel. It almost, every time the name almost, it's like Valerian, something like that. I think it was like Valerian. Anyway, that one, I think because it was based on that weird era of sci-fi, I think Mobius might have illustrated some of the original graphic novel. I could be wrong about that. Don't hold me to that. But it was that kind of look. There was a great montage in the beginning of this space station being built in Earth's orbit. And over generations, aliens showing up, meeting humans, and deciding to collaborate on this space station. And so the space station is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and all these like aliens keep showing up, and you're seeing like, humans always greeting and shaking hands or whatever with these new aliens that show up. I thought that was, I didn't think the movie was that great, but that montage, which you can find, like look for it, you can find it on YouTube. That is exactly the kind of sci-fi that I feel like we could use more of. Like it's just a type of sci-fi you don't see a lot of, which is just the weirdness and the fun of it, the kind of flair of these strange alien designs and really beautiful concept designs. But yes, her and the guy who, I can't think of the actor's name, but he played Green Goblin in the Amazing Spider-Man movies. He was in it too, and I don't know if I'm forgetting his name or never even really knew his name. Anyway, sidetracked. Okay. No, that was Fifth Element. Let me just find it right now. I suppose I am sitting here next to the internet. Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets, starring Dane DeHaan. That's right. Dane DeHaan is the male lead. Kara, I don't know if I want to take a shot at her name. Delavigne, something like that. 2017. Based on, the French science fiction comic series Valerian. So, if you're curious, go to YouTube, find opening scene of Valerian, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Okay. So talking about tonight's topic is burnout. Now, I thought it might be good to define terms before I get into this, because I find I do this. I don't know about you guys. I don't know what you picture in your head when you hear someone is experiencing burnout. I know what I usually picture, and it's not what I'm experiencing right now. To me, there's two kinds of burnout. There is a benign, transient form of burnout, and then there's a like a how would I describe it? A malignant version. A malignant version that you will not survive. It's a terminal. That's the better word. A terminal version of burnout. Okay. Terminal burnout is like when you hear someone, they've got some job somewhere and they say, I'm burned out. I can't do it anymore. And they quit their job and they have a career change. That's terminal burnout. I'm not experiencing terminal burnout. DvsM is still happening. My day job is still happening. I'm still very happy with both those things happening. I'm experiencing what Keith Foster described or characterized when we were talking about it as how you feel in mile 8 of a half marathon. This feeling of, I would love just to not do this right now. Like, I would love a break. I would love just to stop, like I'm so tired and I'm so over it. And I just need, a second. That's more what I've been sort of working my way through the past few weeks, I would say. Now, what's funny about it, I mean, maybe not haha funny, but strange to me about it is I know I've experienced this every single DvsM I've drawn. Every single one at some stage of the game. And somehow I kind of forget once I get past it and forget entirely or block it out or something until the next time I experience it. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I kind of remember feeling this way like last time. And it's usually a similar set of circumstances and a similar point in the journey. So just to kind of tell you where I'm at, I think what precipitated it this time is from two directions, day job and the comic itself. We'll start with day job. I think I've mentioned this in a couple of the past live streams. There are two people in my position at my day job, and my cohort has been mostly out for the past 2 or 3 months. And what that made me realize, what made us both realize, is that there is enough for 1.5 of us could cover all our workload. Okay. So when we're both there, it's not bad. You either have downtime or, and this is usually what we do, you get to spend extra time on a project to make it like really good. So you're not just trying to like get stuff off your desk because you have a little more room to breathe. Like you're just trying to go that extra mile and make everything just right. That's when both of us are there. But again, there's enough work for 1.5 people. If one person is out, the other person is treading and getting mouthfuls of water. And Louis wants to chime in on this. Louis not busy at all, by the way. So now on the bright side, my cohort is back now, and he will be back for a while. And so that is going to lit up tremendously. I'm still kind of in the throes of it. I need to survive this week. I need to survive tomorrow. Next week is going to be a little crazy for me as well. But after that, it lits up. And July, I don't want to jinx it. July for my day job is looking a lot better, a lot more of a relief. But I'm going to also talk a little bit more about that when I get to the how to navigate through the burnout thing. When it comes to DvsM, so DvsM is going well. I'm working currently on page 35, if I remember right. I think it's 35. That is well past the halfway point. And historically, once that's the length of this one is going to be comparable to all the previous ones, comparable to the last two. 75, the first one, the one about Reuben, the man in black, that one is the shortest and probably will be the shortest of all of them. Maybe this next one, the one I do after this one I'm working on now, could also not be too long. Maybe even the last one will be a nice, like, brief, to the point one. But this one is about as long as the one about Dr. Wagner, the last one I did, 79, and the one about Jenny, 97, which is like high 50-something pages. So I'm past the halfway point, which is great. And once I get into the 40s, which I'm getting very close to, I mean, I'll be starting page 36 sometime this weekend. 40s is where I start to feel like, continuing with marathon metaphors, I'm seeing the finish line. And that gives me a little bit of a second wind, and that usually snaps me out of whatever fatigue I'm feeling from the grind of page a week, page a week, page a week. But I am very much in that period where it's like, this is usually where I start to run out of steam. In addition, there's a fatigue in the sorts of pages I'm drawing right now. I have spent 20 pages, the last 20 pages, drawing what is effectively a night scene. I like how the pages are turning out. I like how it looks. I like how it's going to look different from a lot of the other DvsMs. I have no regrets about that, and I have no regrets about the work I'm doing. What's a drag about it is drawing the same sort of thing over and over and over for now going on 20 weeks. And I remembered feeling this exact same way when I was drawing DvsM 1997, the one about Jenny, because that's one, if you remember, if you've read it, and this doesn't spoil anything if you haven't, Jenny is in a holding cell at the Coconino County Jail and talking to someone about what she saw out in the desert, okay? And the way the story is structured, you have the beginning with her in jail. You have this middle part of her recollecting, and you're seeing what more or less what she saw. And then at the end, you're finishing up with her in the jail again, talking to this other person. Because I didn't want drift, so starts with her in jail, ends with her in jail. Because I didn't want drift in the drawing, I didn't want to draw the beginning of her in jail, her in jail, her in jail, then do this middle part for months, and then go back to drawing the jail. I was worried her jail stuff at the end would look different than her jail stuff at the beginning, because I had put it off and was in a totally different headspace when I was drawing it. So I thought, I'm going to do all the jail stuff at first. I'm going to do the first third of the book and the last third of the book first. I'm going to knock that out, and then I'll go and draw the middle portion. I think that was smart. I wouldn't change it. But as a result, it meant for like 5 months I was drawing fucking Jenny in her fucking cell with the fucking brick wall behind her in her fucking handcuffs. Like, I was so over it well before I was done drawing it, you know? I mean, I was like 4 months in, I had like 6 weeks or 8 weeks left of Jenny in her cell. And just there was no fascination left in my body for drawing Jenny sitting in this chair in her handcuffs with the brick wall behind her. And that is for that one, that's when like the burnout hit me hard, where it was just like, I'm just not inspired. I'm just not, I can draw anything 3 or 4 times and get excited about it. But try drawing something, 500 times. Like, how excited are you now? And that's kind of what, I mean, that's a mild exaggeration, but keep in mind, DvsM has hundreds of panels. I probably drew Jenny in her cell 250 times, And in this case, with this one, I'm probably drawing guys running around in a dark forest at night, 200 times. Like, you're over it. It doesn't matter how much you love drawing it. It's like, you might love cheesecake. Do you want cheesecake every day for every meal? Like, no, so, and there's really no way around it. All this stuff has to be drawn. And it's hard to trick your brain into like, let's pretend I've never drawn this before. Like, come on. Like, that's where it's simply, and that's, again, kind of a marathon mindset. The mile 9 in a marathon. It's just putting one foot in front of the other and trying to come out the other side of it. But that, I think, in this case right now, that's what triggered the burnout phase this time. Louis, he thinks I'm talking to him. Now, how do you get out of this hole? Okay. Obviously, it's going to be specific to you. I do, and this is actually maybe step 1 to getting out of the hole, is believing you can get out of the hole. Like, that's, I think, just a fundamental thing. It's like, you have to trust that this is not that this is not the terminal burnout, that this is the transitory burnout. And you just need to either weather it or get a little clever about like diagnosing, like, this is why I'm experiencing it. And therefore, if I do this, I can diffuse the bomb, the burnout bomb. So this is what I'm doing in my case. And I'm feeling good about both these. So on the day job side of it, I'm one of these guys that rarely uses my PTO. I'll take a 3-day weekend now and then, or now and then, or a half day, or if I have a doctor's appointment on the other side of town and I don't want to do that and then drive all the way to work, I'll just take the day off. But these, again, it's the odd day here and there. That's not a vacation. It's like, oh, I slept in a little bit and I goofed off, and that was that. As a result, I have this war chest of PTO hours. In addition, I always like to keep a chunk because of my peculiar nuttiness or practicality. I mean, you can label it however you want. I always imagine things like, what if someone I cared about was in the hospital for a week? Like, I'd want to be able to take a week off. What if there was a death in the family? I'd want to be able to take 2 weeks off. What if my car broke down and I didn't want to take the bus to work for a few days? Like, I'll just, I always want like insurance PTO, like just a, emergency PTO for like, who knows, for something coming up. But I'm really bad about, I'm not a vacation guy. I'm not proud of this. I see friends and people who, they take a week off, 2 weeks off, go places. I'm not really that guy. I've never really been that guy. I have taken some trips in my life, and but it's not my natural way. I didn't come from a vacation family. I came from blue collar working class, not blue collar, but like my dad was a cop. My mom was a medical assistant. These aren't people who take a week or 2 weeks off to do a road trip across the country. Like that's just not a thing. The biggest, most ambitious trip I remember as a kid was like the 3-day weekend in Disneyland. Like that, it's that kind of thing. So the whole point of this is I just end up amassing PTO and I rarely use it. But because work has been so exhausting and because I feel like the burnout has affected other parts of my life, like this office is a wreck. I think it's bleeding into DvsM where I'm just exhausted when I get home and I'm not as productive. I feel like my attention span is sapped because I'm so involved with the stuff I'm doing at work. I'm taking a week off in July. I can't do it sooner because, like I said, I've got a lot for the rest of this month. But I'm taking, I think 4th of July is a Friday, which I'll have off anyway. I'm taking the following week off. So I'll have long weekend and the whole week off. And my intention with that time off, I'm not going away. I'm not taking vacation because I'm focused on my comic. But that will give me, it'll feel luxurious. Basically, I'm going to do comic full time, which is something I never get to do. And catch up all the things I've been slacking on because I've been burning the candle on both ends. Clean up this office, clean my bathroom, like there's some home repairs, like but also watch some movies I've been meaning to watch, maybe play a video game, like just give myself a week to decompress a little bit. Okay, so that's what I'm doing on that end. On the comic end, there's two things. One is just going to take care of itself. Remember I was saying like there's this endless night scene I've been drawing. It's only like 2 or 3 more pages. So in a way, it's going to take care of itself. And then it's going to change everything up. Then I'm drawing different things. That's going to help a lot. But what I also noticed, and I'm going to resolve this tomorrow. I've slightly resolved it, but I'm going to fully resolve it tomorrow. Historically, when I've done a DvsM, when I finish drawing a page, I test print it to see how it turned out. And sometimes that reveals like, oh, I thought this line would be finer. It looks a little bold to me printed. I'm going to go back in and make that line a little finer. Or, oh, it's, now I'm noticing the typo. There's something about seeing something in print where you immediately see typos that you've been staring at digitally and ignoring for days. So you'd catch little things. But then, so I would look at that. I would see things like, oh, I don't like how that looks. I'd go back and fix them, reprint it, look at it, say like, okay, that's cool. And put it, you can't see it, it's just out of frame, but have a binder and I put it in the sleeve and I'm building the comic I'm drawing so I can see like flip through it and see like how it's coming together. This time for 2001, the soldier story, I had this idea that I'm not going to do that. And here is my logic. It just invites futzing and fussing and editing and revising and bullshit, which I allow for at the end of my process. For every time I finish a book, I finish the last page and I set it aside for a week and try to not think about it, not do anything related to the comic. Maybe do some videos or something, but not the actual comic. I don't do anything with that. And then after a week break, I go back and I read it beginning to end and spot things that need to be fixed or changed or edited or redrawn or whatever. I sit with like a pad of paper and I make like a list of like my change list. These are all the things that I want to fix. And then I go back and I do all these revisions and corrections. And then I have a final version that I can send to the printer. Okay. So I felt like, well, printing it up week by week and looking at it and making those changes, I'm just wasting time in the thick of it. I do all that at the end anyway. It encourages a lot of bad habits of like futzing and not calling something done, like finding excuses not to move on. It's like, no, I'm eyes forward. I'm going to finish a page, save it, back it up to the cloud, and start the next one. Not look back. Okay. I didn't realize until just a few days ago, but there was something I'd been doing in these night scenes that I was a little anxious about, where I was like, is this going to look right printed? I don't know. Is this too subtle? Will this even show up on a normal printer? Or is it too much? Like, am I hitting the target I'm trying to hit? And I was thinking about this every week for the 20 weeks I've been doing this. And I finally couldn't take it anymore. It's like, you know what? I'm going to print one of these pages and look at it and see if this thing I'm doing, this little technique thing I'm doing, is even showing up. Because if it's not showing up, I don't want to do it for, anymore. Like, I'm creating a lot of work for myself that I'm going to have to undo if it's not working. So I printed one page and looked at it. It looked fine. So that's good. But I realized I got this little hit of this concrete proof of work. This little hit, this little kind of, just a little morsel, a chocolate chip sized piece of joy of like finished work. And I realized, I think I've been starving myself. Like, I think I've actually been screwing myself by not doing that. I was very focused on the practical argument against printing week to week. And I was completely oblivious to the fact that, seeing this book grow and grow and grow, and seeing the pile of work accumulate, the progress physically, like being able to like pull this book out and flip through it, was actually nourishing me through the process of drawing the other books. And I wasn't letting myself do that this time. And I kind of realized I'd sort of screwed up, like, my morale. So tomorrow I'm printing all the finished pages. Like, I'm printing them all up in one big go, 34 pages, and filing them away in my folder, because I think that will help. Not only, so I'll be finishing with the night scenes just generally. I'll be approaching page 40 where I'll start to feel like, all right, it's all downhill now. And I'll have this visual representation of all the work I've done so far. And I'll see this book starting to come together. More than half of it, I'll be able to go through. I'm very optimistic. We'll see, but I really do believe that will reinvigorate me a bit. My intentions were good. My intentions were, be productive. Don't screw around wasting time on something that's not moving you forward. And I kind of neglected, I think, this right here, the most important thing. I don't know, that's weird. Okay, let's see what's going on in the chat. I think that's so I guess if I'm trying to now generalize it to any would-be creatives out there, or active creatives or whatever, I guess my suggestion would be, and then again, this is based on my experience, you have to find your own way through the forest. Try to diagnose what you're stumbling over intellectually or emotionally, and come up with a prescription for that. If you feel day job is wearing you down and you have the opportunity, not everyone has this opportunity, but if you have an opportunity to take some time off, take some time off. If you feel you need to get out of this attitude of like, I'm just on this treadmill, like this hamster wheel of just drawing, and it feels like it's never going to end, print up what you have so far so you can see, like, no, you're making progress. You actually are mostly done. Like, you are going to get there. It's just, like, come up, what's the thing that is the antidote for the thing that's hanging you up. I guess that would be my advice. The other advice, if that doesn't work, is like, you should probably walk away. Being an artist isn't for you. Get fucked, I guess. I don't know. Okay. Let's see here. Louis appreciates the hello. Yeah, this is worth. It did occur to me. My deadlines for the comic, day job has deadlines you can't negotiate. But for the comic, of course, like you do need to take a step back sometimes and say, this is completely arbitrary and completely self-enforced. Like I am the boss and CEO of DvsM. I can be done with this whenever I want to be done with this. I can change the launch date. I can change the projected to print date if I want. I'm just not there. I don't think if I was worried, like if I was experiencing physical burnout symptoms, like if I just couldn't get enough sleep or I was having, headaches and backaches, and if I was, my stomach was in knots all the time and I like losing weight or gaining weight or, something like then it's like, okay, time to let off the gas. It's not, it's purely morale. It's purely, like I said, that mile 9 of the half marathon thing that Keith said, where it's just like, or, I've never done a marathon, but my relationship to, if like you're at the gym and you're on the treadmill and you want to do whatever, 10 minutes, 15 minutes or whatever, and you set it up and you're going fast, there's that point at about like minute 6 or 7 where you're like, this sucks. Like, it's not that you can't finish, you just don't want to. Like, you just, I'm losing my mind. Like, this is uncomfortable. That's kind of where I'm at with this right now. I'm just sort of uncomfortable. But rest assured, if I did feel like, oh no, I'm going to lose my mind, something bad's going to happen. There's going to be a cost if I, stay on target. I would nudge it. I think DvsM 4 being done in time for holidays would become a DvsM 4 coming in the new year. I could make that change. I don't want to. I do think it's important for me to be pretty tough on myself about deadlines, only because of a long history before DvsM of not finishing stuff. So it was important to me to like, no, you gotta make it happen. It's also worth pointing out, DvsM is not, while it's a lot of work, and I would suggest, I'm not saying I would never say the art is better than anybody else's work. I will say the art is more fiddly than a lot of other people's work and takes more time than, and I do have, and again, this is not a humble brag. I think though there's a level of QC, quality control, with my pages that a lot of indies are not burdened by. And that I don't mean that in a snarky way. I mean, I will not accept a page that looks clearly half-baked compared to every other page, or like lesser. If there's anything, this is a better way to say it. If I'm looking at a page and I'm like, it's not there, it's like, that's not what I wanted. I don't think that's as good as other pages. I love how that looks. Then I continue to work on it until I do like how it looks. And I know there's a lot of great creatives. I'm not saying they're wrong, who are like, they have a better sense, a healthier sense of what's good enough. What's good enough to move on. My sense of good enough to move on is probably a little tough on myself. That said, the reason I was even going down this path, a page of DvsM is not a week, is not an insurmountable or overly ambitious goal. It's very doable, especially given the fact I don't have kids. I don't I'm not a landscaper working all day, killing myself in the sun, and now I have to come home and try and focus on drawing a sci-fi comic. Like it's very manageable if I stick to it. And that's the problem. Once you start to get tired, once like the day job hours start getting long, once you're exhausted from that. I was, not to get into details, but a few weeks ago I had to testify in a criminal trial as part of my day job. And there's a lot of prep that goes into that, and a lot of stressing that goes into a lot of prep, just mental preparation, where it's like it's hard to prepare to be cross-examined and draw a comic book at the same time. There's just things that, it just feels like a lot. That said, again, I don't have nearly as much going on as some people. So it's mostly, it's not a time question. It's a energy / emotional energy question. Okay, let's see here. My corridor drives me nuts. Let's go better one there. Yeah, I mean, fortunately, I guess that's not the case. Fortunately, and he's approaching retirement, which after this experience, I don't love the sound of that at all. It will. It will. And again, I had totally forgotten about that feeling. I forget it every time until I'm in that situation again, drawing a book. With the last one, 79, anytime there was a scene change, just like I think in that book, maybe about every 15 pages or so, like I was so excited to please let me draw a different background now, please. Or I remember in 79, the Dr. Wagner one, I think about 2/3 of halfway through, maybe 2/3 of the way through, I don't remember exactly, she takes off her plaid jacket. And I was so relieved and delighted, not only because the plaid jacket was a huge pain in the ass to draw, like figuring out where are all the stripes and contouring it to the shape of this coat, and how is it bending if she's folding her arms, or if she's all that. Like that was just a drag. But I was just excited to draw her looking different. It wasn't even the difficulty of drawing the plaid jacket. It was, thank God, now I can draw this blouse for 30 pages instead of this jacket. Because it's just something new, something different. Exactly. Yeah, it's its own animal for sure. It's got its own unique challenges. Let's see here. PTO. See, you gotta use it. I need to get better at that. I also need to get better at what I alluded to, but I'm not addressing this time with my week off, vacations. I gotta get better at. I mean, I never was, again, never a big vacation guy, but there are a few in my life where I've gone someplace far away for a few days. It's been a long time since I've done that, and I gotta try to get better. Like I said, it's just not in my default. I guess I wasn't really a vacation. We weren't a vacation family, and I think that's the main reason. The lesser reason, but significant, is I tend to have jobs where it's harder to get away. Um, for whatever, either because it's like I have a lot of responsibility and it's it burdens a lot of people, or it's a pain in the ass if I'm not there. Or there's things where, for like, you know, again, not to get into the specifics, but I work in the criminal justice system, and I'm basically available for attorneys to get visual aids for trial. Okay, trials happen all the time. Attorneys end up showing up all the time, different time. Like, so I know when I take my week off in a few weeks, like I'm gonna have to, you know, make that very clear. Like I'm not gonna be around, and I'll be aware that people will be discovering this when they need something. They'll be like, "Where's Gary?" You know, and they'll live. Everyone's replaceable. No one's important. Like whatever. But it's a thing. It's a thing to think about. And I also know, and I'm going to try not to think about this. Work will probably be accumulating, where I'm going to come back feeling good, feeling rested, and like have a sack of bullshit to deal with. So you know, it just disincentivizes the idea of like, oh, what if I went away for a week or two? It's like, you know, it's like, oh yeah, but then this and this. And I kind of have to get over that, I guess. I don't know. It's just I've been thinking about that more now at this point in my life, that like I'm not really a travel guy, and maybe I need to be better at being a travel guy. You seem like a kind of guy who could use a wild bender. I just no, I haven't tried one of those. I'm not really a bender guy either. I'm gonna pass. I'm gonna pass. I have some stories though, but that's not live stream material. Um, let's see here. I mean, did a bender even happen if the pants are still there? Let's see here. Scanning chat. Let's see here. Gary, you Slack methoding this? Not really. I go, so for people who don't, to recap, I forgot exactly what the standard. It's the Scott Lost. Is it like advanced comic method? Something comic method. Basically, it's Scott Lost's approach to doing comics, which is I basically just go where the heat is. So you have 25 pages to draw, 30 pages to draw, whatever. Today you feel like drawing fight scenes. You just go and draw the fight scenes in the book for the day. Tomorrow you feel like, no, I think I want to do some more like character stuff, you know, like the quiet moments. You do that. One day you wake up and you're like, feeling like backgrounds today. You do the backgrounds. And basically you just lilt around because it's all forward momentum, right? And the logic is you're going to be most productive and most effective and most efficient if you're doing the thing that you're excited to do that day. And yes, at the end, you might end up with all the shit you never wanted to do, like the stuff that you like to do the least. All that's going to be left at some point, maybe. But at that point, you're so close to the end. And that kind of like, I can see it. It's right there. I'm almost done. That energy will get you over the hump of all the stuff you didn't want to deal with. That's how I would describe the Slack method. I don't do the Slack method. I go, with the exception of the Jenny story, which I said I drew out of order, I go page one forward. Within a page, though, I do, I guess in a sense, do a Slack method. So for example, like I draw page 15, draw page 16, draw page 17. Now, like let's say I'm doing page 18. And on page 18, there are characters, there's a dinosaur, and there's like some close-ups of like people's faces when they're talking. Once I have like the page, we've started page 18, what I decide to do first or next can be very Slack, you know, in that sort of approach where it's like, this is a day where it's like, I'm tired today. I don't feel like drawing a dinosaur. Dinosaurs are a pain to draw. I'll do the character stuff. I'll do the close-ups. So I'll do that then. Or like, you know, I'm going to get the dialogue bubbles dialed in. Like we'll do that. Like, so within a page, there's like a mini version of it, but generally no. Generally, just the way I am, I prefer to tackle my books beginning to end. Let's see here. When you're a painter, you can take a break by changing up your medium, style, and theme. Yeah. Well, and that's the drag of doing a long comic is, you know, you might spend a year drawing kind of the same way. One thing I've always loved in each DvsM, well, not the Jenny one. Every DvsM but the Jenny one so far has had some kind of style shift somewhere in it. Maybe because someone's hallucinating, maybe because someone's having like a bad dream or a vision, or they're disoriented, or there's something where I am allowed to break out of the sort of design document of what DvsM looks like, and I can play a little bit. And I always love when I have those pages. There's one in this one that does that. It's yeah, 1 or 2 pages. I'm still a little ways from it. I think it's going to come up a little bit after I go to the next Crestline art retreat with the Making Comics and the Artcasters guys, which is in early August. I'm looking forward to it. And on a related note to this, so I'm not going to be able to work on my book there because it's all, you can't see this, but it's all my Mac setup with my tablet here, and like, so there's no way for me to really draw pages in Crestline. So what am I going to work on? Well, I'm already, as is usually the case, I'm already thinking about the next book while I'm drawing a book. And the next book is going to require an unusually large amount of character and concept design, which I'm really excited about, actually. When I was in high school and college, I really dreamed of being like, I thought like the dream job would be a concept designer at Lucasfilm or something, just drawing aliens and spaceships and landscapes and buildings all day, coming up with weird ideas of what things look like. That, I thought that would be the coolest job in the world. And that's what I'm going to get to do for this next DvsM. I do it a little bit for all of them, but the next one is really going to require a lot. So it's going to be old school, and I can't wait. So DvsM is mostly digital. Once in a while, there's some traditional scanned in, but it's mostly digital. But the concept sketching, it's going to be, I'm going to have my brush pens and my microns and a big, you know, pad of art paper, and I'm just going to be doodling. I don't want to spoil anything, but doodling stuff. Old school, traditional. Maybe even some pencil sketching and then doing ink. Maybe just messing, maybe some stuff that's garbage. Just fast, ugly garbage. Maybe some real finished things where I'll just sit there, listen to everybody talk, and really get into, like, you know, fiddly details on something that may or may not appear in the next DvsM. I just want to come up with a lot of different ideas. So then when I go to write the script, when I'm done drawing this current one, I have lots to look at. It's like, maybe this happens at this part, you know, and I can pull from this like idea Bible. I will start at Crestline. So that will also scratch an itch for me. And I think it will become a little bit of a break from the grind and refresh me a little bit. 100%. Let's see here. I can't think of Olympics. Well, I'm also, I'm, you know, 50. my days of Olympic sporting. Any dreams I would ever have had, which I never did. That fork in the road is way back. Way back. Let's see here. Start doing them on to keep it fresh. Mixed media world building. That is kind of fun. I always thought, you know, you don't see a lot of I mean, I get it. If you're going to stretch canvas, you kind of have to do it certain shapes. But, you know, the tyranny of the square piece of art or rectangular. Anyway. So that's what I have. That's this week. I know I've been spotty with the live streaming. I talked a lot about every other week. It has not been every other week. It's purely been out of busyness. If I was not streaming when I said I was, it's not because I'm, you know, goofing off and clinking wine glasses. You know, it's probably because like I need to get drawing done on the book. And as famously, I can't really talk and draw at the same time. So you know, it's like I can't really live stream, and I'm not going to do one of the I was going to say no shade, a little bit of shade. I see these other creatives on YouTube live streaming where all you see, let me see here. They have the camera pointed at their art, and it's this. With the same audio, by the way. And once in a while, they'll be like, oh, hey, Dee. A little bit of shade. That's bullshit content. Like, I don't know. I'm not going to do that to you guys. I'm not going to do that to you guys. I love you. Which is also why, not to cast shade on anybody in particular, I'm not going to come on here and say, I'm tired, it sucks, oh man, I don't know if I can do it anymore, blah, 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 blah. Like, I'm trying to give you an even keel picture of the day-to-day life or week-to-week life of an indie creator. Like, drawing comics does not justify that hangdog energy. I'm sorry. Take a step back. Take a step back and recognize your privilege. You're making a comic book. You could smile. Let's see here. Paul, thanks for coming by. It's good to see you. No, you talk the entire time and you're showing things and you're like, you know, like you keep it interesting. But there are people, I know you've probably seen these, Dee. There are people out there that are basically, they're drawing with a camera on them. And you almost, it's like eavesdropping on them drawing with a little bit like, and it's just, I don't know. I'm not into that. To each their own, but let's see here. Okay. What else? Quick poll. There's 3 people currently watching this exact second, if this is correct. Oh, I want to see this. Does this work? No. Okay. I wanted to see if I could share. I'm not a subscriber, so I couldn't share the chat on the screen. What are we more excited about? Now, okay. Before you answer, let me get fully through the question. New Superman movie or new Fantastic Four movie? And before you answer, it's which one are you more excited about? If you're like, I'm not that interested in either one of them, I didn't ask you if you were excited. Which one are you more excited about? Well, I just don't want to see either one. Okay, but if you had to, Do you get okay? Are you getting the okay? What are we more excited about? Fantastic Four movie or Superman movie? I gotta say, I'm excited about the Superman movie. Okay, see, he understood the assignment. All right, yeah. I mean, I will say I'm not overly excited for either. Yeah, see, what's interesting is I generally am a Marvel guy. Everyone's a Batman guy. Like everybody loves Batman. So let's like remove him. If you remove Batman from the DC Marvel's, sides of the equation, then I'm a Marvel guy. Batman, I mean, I like Batman more than any Marvel superhero, I think, off the top of my head. But he's also maybe the only DC superhero I really get excited about. But I have all this. This is why, in this rare instance, I'm more excited about the Superman movie. I've long felt, and we've talked about it a little bit on this stream, this idea that Superman is a difficult character to do a good story about because he's too powerful or whatever. I've never bought into that. I've always felt it is possible to have a good Superman movie that is also true to the character in the comics and not, for example, like Zack Snyder's way of dealing with this sort of difficult character is like, well, I'll darken it up a little bit. I'll make him very conflicted and I'll make him a little edgy and I'll make it a little dour. And that's a totally legitimate path. And I didn't hate the Zack Snyder movies, but I did think it steered a little too far away from what Superman is supposed to be. I do believe you can make a really good Superman movie and that it's rarely, if ever, been done. And I'm hopeful James Gunn could be the guy. I think if anyone's going to do it, maybe him. But we'll see. I don't know. I am worried that it's a little congested with other characters that have not really been introduced yet. I mean, I see Hawkgirl. I see Mr. Terrific is in there. You see one of the Green Lanterns. It's like, oh, there's a lot. You got Lex Luthor. You got, seems busy. But I don't know. Maybe they can pull it off. I guess an X-Men movie technically is busy. You can still do that. Guardians of the Galaxy was busy, and James Gunn did that. So maybe he can pull it off. I don't know. I hope he does, because I would like that. Fantastic Four, frankly, I'm definitely experiencing Marvel fatigue. Marvel, like MCU fatigue. I have for a while now. I'm going to need to hear some pretty gushy reviews to actually go and see Fantastic Four in the theater. If I'm hearing it's just like, yeah, it's a pretty good Marvel movie, it's like, okay, well then I'll probably wait for Disney Plus. That's kind of where I am right now. Where Superman, I might, if I'm going to see either one in the theater, it'll probably be Superman, barring again like horrendous review. If everyone's like Superman's weird and bad, I'm not going to go see it, but I'm hopeful. Since the last Star Trek, what was the last Star Trek? I don't remember. I don't remember the last movie I saw in the theater. I know it hasn't been that long, but maybe it has been a while. It might have been. It might have been A Complete Unknown, the Bob Dylan movie. And that was probably January. So it's been a little while, I guess. Batman is real. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Though, at least when we're talking about DC, were they changing it just to change them, or were they changing it because, like, the Snyderverse was sort of limping along? Now, I know Snyder has his defenders, and I said I didn't hate those movies. I for sure the Justice League movie, like his cut, the big giant like 4 hour, was way better than the one they released in the theaters. Way better. I just feel like, other than the hardcore Snyder fans, like that was not connecting with anybody. Like you had the diehards who loved it, and everyone else was kind of like, okay. I mean, it just, so I feel like they kind of had to they couldn't just carry on with those people. Like they couldn't carry on with Cavill, Superman, and Affleck, Batfleck. And what does bother me a little bit, I really did like, it's not my favorite Batman, but I really did like the Robert Pattinson Batman movie, The Batman. Supposedly they're working on the sequel, which will maybe be coming out around when James Gunn does his own DCU Batman movie. Like, that's a little, like, I love Batman. I don't know if I need two Batmans. Or yeah, it would be Batmans. It wouldn't be Batman. Anyway, whatever. This gets into the weeds. But I mean, I know, yeah. Changing the source material. It depends. Like, I don't like the conspicuous changes. I don't like, we've talked about this before. I benefit from having not been a tremendous comic fan when I was a kid. I loved G.I. Joe, and I loved all the old like EC comics and like Conan comics and stuff that my dad had. And after that, like, I read a Spider-Man once in a while. I read an X-Men once in a while. Like, I wasn't overly into it. So, for example, when they, like, the one that Fantastic Four is going to come up, when they, like, Silver Surfer is now a female character, I don't care. Like, I have no attachment to Silver Surfer. I have no real long history with, like, I've never read a Silver, like, the only encounters I've had with Silver Surfer really are like an old cartoon. Like, so now I know not everyone's me. Like, I know some people are like, Silver Surfer is my favorite character, and I'm nuts about Silver Surfer, and I know all the lore of Silver Surfer, and that they're making Silver Surfer a woman now is like making me angry. All right. Like, I mean, I can't judge that because that's not me. And I was like, well, what would the equivalent be? If they did a new G.I. Joe movie and they recast Snake Eyes as a woman, like, yeah, I would find that irritating. But, they did do a Snake Eyes movie, and they recast him as Asian. And I had a little bit of that experience of, like, in the comics, he's a white guy. And that there's a point, like, it's not inconsequential. Like, he's the one white guy at the ninja school with Storm Shadow and the Hard Master and the Soft Master. And, like, he kind of sticks out in that way. And that makes it even more of a weird betrayal when he learns the secrets of ninjutsu from the Hard Master that were not passed along to Storm Shadow. I mean, that creates that, like, I get it. That all said, I'm sure you can agree, Jim, that sometimes when people kick up a fuss about these race swaps, gender swaps, it's not because of their long cherished history with the material. It's because they're assholes. Like, we can agree that that's some of what's going on there. Okay. I'm just taking that we agree. I fully agree with this. I think if you do have an established character anywhere and you want to go a totally new direction, sounds like a great opportunity to make a new character rather than take this legacy character and like change them to fit like whatever the new idea is. I do agree with that. And I think that's sort of this is also a common observation about comics where it's like, I mean, like me, again, as a casual comic book fan, I've long felt there isn't a Batman story left to tell. There isn't a Superman story left to tell, like in the comics. Like, these characters have been around forever. You have wrung every last drop out of these concepts. And the only way you can come up with a new story now for a Batman is to totally change Batman. I mean, it kind of is begging the question, why don't you just make a new character to tell new stories? Because you can't, what's left to say about, the Hulk? Nothing. On the other hand, I've seen some weird new Hulks that aren't Bruce Banner, but that's not the same. Like, my reaction is sort of like, I don't care about a non-Bruce Banner Hulk, but that's also too close. They need to go in a different, I don't know. Anyway, it's comics. It's, they got a lot of problems. Yeah, of course. Like, where's it coming from? No, and the clumsy, whatever, virtue signaling, this is the trend, this is where it is, this is where the heat is right now, so we need this. Like, I'm not going to name things, but like, there's lots of very conspicuous examples of that. And I think it's, and sometimes people can be critical of it. Like, here's an example. Actually, I think this is all the, no, actually, I don't want to get into examples. I'm just saying, sometimes the Venn diagram overlaps. Sometimes it's legitimately poorly done for the reasons you're talking about. It's trendy, it's in, it's woke, whatever the thing is, okay? And there are people who are against it just because they love to have that fight, and sometimes it overlaps. Sometimes it's like a totally innocuous change and who cares? Or, sometimes it was actually really, really good, but someone's against it because like that's their weird political angle. And sometimes it's both. Sometimes it's garbage, and also garbage people hate it for the wrong reasons. But that's in my opinion. Let's see. Yeah, that would be a good example of like, though here, I mean, I don't know if they'll ever do this. I'm very curious where James Bond is another one where it's like, I'm not going to say every James Bond story has been told. I think there's lots of things you could do with that character. Here's my hot take. I don't think it's even that hot. My lukewarm take. I don't think James Bond works in the modern world. I don't think James Bond works in the world of cell phones. I think the next James Bond, like, let's go back to 1962 or something. Like, I think you need to get back to James Bond. To me is very much, to me, James Bond is just as period specific as like the Three Musketeers. Like, you can't do a Three Musketeers story today. You can't do a Robin Hood story today. You can't do a James Bond story modern era. And I really liked the Daniel Craig James Bonds. I really did. But I think it gets harder and harder and harder given how, like, just the modern world. When you look at what makes that character interesting and fun, I think it's hard to make that character interesting and fun and do James Bondy things with that character in 2025. I personally think, like, let's go back to late 50s, early 60s for this character. I just think it would work better and it'd be more fun and more different. Yeah, there's a little bit of that. I don't know. I don't. I have to admit, I don't feel strongly about this. Like, I don't, and maybe it's just me. I don't feel like it's as big as a problem as sometimes it's made out to be. Like, the whole, again, we can think of egregious examples that I would 100% agree with. Like, I think Acolyte had a lot of garbage in it that maybe fits into this complaint, you know? I just don't think it's as big a deal or as common a problem or as it's sometimes made out to be. Like, I don't know. It's not my biggest worry about Hollywood. It doesn't even rank. Like, as someone who clumsily tries to write, like, what drives me crazy all the times is like, why are we spending a gazillion dollars casting and on special effects and 50 grand on a poorly written script that goes through 4 rewrites? Like, that's the kind I find that like this is a bigger problem, you know, than or AI or any of these other things are a bigger problem in Hollywood than like, why does this character have to be gay? Like, whatever. I don't know. That's I find it hard to get worked up over it when I think there are things that are a bigger deal. Let's see here. Jeffrey Epstein. Of course, I want to read. Yeah. Jim has a lot of notes about who should play Jeffrey Epstein when the movie comes. And he's told me privately, I don't think he'd mind me saying this, he really wants to make sure both sides of the story are told. I don't know exactly what he means by that, but he's like, you know, I think it's important not to be biased when telling the Jeffrey Epstein story. And I was like, what do you mean biased? Biased how? And he's like, you know what I mean. You know. So anyway, he's working on a screenplay as far as I know. Corey, how's it going? I thought I didn't think you'd mind if I shared that. I'm not sharing the draft of the screenplay you sent me. Like, I'm keeping that private. I haven't showed that to anybody. It's tucked under my mattress right now. Okay. I think that's it, guys. Hour and a half. I will probably check back in. Yeah, actually, I'll probably check back in on my week off. I'll let you know how it's going. That's probably about 2 weeks. Let me check that. I think it's, let me see, where are we at? It'll probably be like 2.5 weeks. 2 weeks puts us basically at the 4th of July, day before the 4th of July. 4th of July, I'm going up to Flagstaff, so I won't be available. But that following week, I have off for my well-earned break. So look for a live stream around then. Topic TBA. Dee, thank you for dropping by. Good to see you. Jim, get back to work on your Epstein screenplay. And Corey, hydrate. All right. I think that covers everything. My fellow creatives out there, keep doing the good work. It's very important that we all hang in there and all tell our stories in whatever form they come out, whether it's comics or prose or music or dance or paintings or sculpture or Jim's Jeffrey Epstein biopic. See you next time.